What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today I want to talk to you about how to be a finisher in a society of starters. But first, I sound a little bit like a robot because I have a sinus thing going on. This is what always happens when I have lovely sinus compression and whatnot. So if I stop to cough relentlessly, that's what's happening. I'll make sure not to cough directly in the microphone so you don't have to bear the brunt of that noise. But nonetheless, it's especially good on the other end of it. In a couple of days, I'll sound like James Earl Jones, but with an indefinite rasp. So at any rate, you might look forward to hearing that at some point down the road. So why is this what we're talking about today? Well, we are professional starters, especially in the United States, all across the world, as a matter of fact, as far as I know. People set, for instance, New Year's resolutions on a yearly basis. Sadly, I think that they have started to lose a little bit of traction, which makes sense because for however long people have set them and failed and set them and failed and set them and failed. And if that continues to happen, then eventually they'll lose traction. But this isn't only about New Year's resolutions. This is about starting anything at any time, because the truth of the matter is, any time is a good time to start anything. Waiting for a perfect time, the right time, the new year, the new month, the new week is inefficient and ineffective because you are literally wasting time waiting when you could be working to move toward that thing. But starting isn't really the problem for many people. Yes, certainly it's hard. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a statistic. I owned a fitness studio for 10 years, and I can tell you that the average time it took somebody to walk in the door was 18 months. I would always ask somebody when they first heard about us or when they first came across us, and 18 months was the average time. For some, it was longer, a couple of years. There were a very few, very, very small minority that were in the door within a month. But for the average person, it was around 18 months it took them to walk through the door. So, and that's to start to make a change in their life, in their health, in their fitness, into something that they know matters and is important to them living better and longer. So when it comes to starting anything, yes, it's challenging for sure. But starting is not the problem. It's not the biggest problem. It is finishing. The reason that we are such professional starters is because we never finish anything. We get to a point where we realize it's going to be hard, and then we stop. We realize how much time it's going to take. We realize how much effort it's going to take. We realize that our friend that told us it only took him a couple months was completely lying, and we come to a realization that it's it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. This is going to be hard work. I'm going to have to continue to do this. How long am I going to have to keep going? And when those unknowns start to pop up or those realizations start to pop up, then you go kind of throw your hands up and go, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll come back to this later, actually, is what usually happens. I'm going to go ahead and put this off for now. Exercise is a perfect example. I'll give you plenty of, I could pull examples out of my hat just relentlessly when it comes to people who would stop the gym for what they would define as a just reason, what they would define, but is not a just reason. It is simply an excuse to stop because they realize that the other option was just to keep going and that it was going to take effort and time and hard work to get to where they wanted. But generally, that excuse sounds something like, oh, it's the summer, so I'm going to stop for the summer. Well, 9.9 times out of 10, that person never came back. Oh, well, my son or daughter is starting soccer practice and I'm going to have to run them around. So I'm going to stop until soccer's over. 9.9 times out of 10, that person never showed back up. And you can translate that exact same scenario to any area of life, whether that's starting to invest, whether that's starting a business, whether that's starting a new hobby, any of them. People will say and find justifications to stop things because they recognize that it's going to be hard and challenging, that there's going to be a lot of effort, a lot more time that's going to have to put into this thing in order for them to start to see the fruits of their labor. Ironically, that is the only way you keep the fruits of your labor. Because what we do instead is we fall for these short-term, quick, instant gratification scenarios that promise us easy results. And maybe you get those results, but very unlikely you keep the results. The only way you keep results is if you earn results. And that is because of twofold. Number one is because it takes time to become the person that can do that and keep that. If you stay the same person that started the goal and started the journey at the beginning, you will give everything up. If you start a business and you use this hack to generate whatever, $500,000, and it happens to work, you will not keep that $500,000. You will most definitely lose it. You will most definitely drop sales and end up crashing and burning because you have not became a different person. You have not developed the skills and abilities necessary to maintain that level of achievement and maintain that level of revenue. The same thing can be said for health. If you, for instance, excuse me, if you decide to go, poke yourself with a needle to lose a little extra weight a little faster, which, never mind, I'm not even going to get into it. But if you decide to go that route and you end up losing weight quickly and you end up coming off of the needle, then you will put that weight back on. There is zero doubt. You can look at past gastric bypasses and other quick weight loss schemes and so on. They've all been the same. It's always been the same. Now, in this scenario, if you stay on the shot, then you can potentially keep the weight off, but you still have to make lifestyle changes. That's something that they don't tell you. At any rate, excuse me, you see what I'm saying? The more I talk, the more I become a monster. So I'm going to take a quick drink to see if I can get this monster washed away. Excuse me. There we go. So when you earn it, you keep it because it takes that much time to build the skills and abilities to keep things around, to build the mental skills and to build just the overall necessary skills to keep whatever it is you're working for. Number two, when you go the quick route, your mind knows that you cheated. Your mind knows you did it. So it has no reason to try and keep it around. And potentially there's a level of subconscious guilt packed away somewhere. So you self-sabotage yourself to then again just end back where you started. So it is necessary to do the work to make things happen. It is necessary to put in the effort, to put in the time, to put in what it's going to take to achieve the goal that you want. So how do we do that? What's up, guys? I want to jump in here real quick and talk to you about achieving your goals. If you're listening to this podcast, then I know you want to achieve something extraordinary in life, whether that's building a business, getting in the best shape possible, or maximizing your time with your family. And if you want to do any of those things, there's two things you need to be able to master. One of them is time, and the other one is productivity. It starts with managing your time and being able to eliminate the things that are getting in your way so that then you can set your goals and start to break them down into actionable steps and take those steps and interject them into your life so that you can take action and turn those dreams into reality. And in order to help you do that, I created the Alpha Life Action Plan. It's literally a 90-day action plan that does both of those things. Starts with taking your time, figuring out where you're spending it, eliminating the things or delegating the things that you don't need to do so that you can free up your time to then set your goals and break them down into action steps and start to take action on them so that you can achieve the things that you want in life. The Alpha Life Action Plan is yours for free. All you have to do is cover shipping. You can go to goodwolfproject.us/action plan and put in your information there and have it sent to you ASAP. That's goodwolfproject.us/action plan so you can start to take action on those goals and dreams you want to create the life that you deserve. The number one character trait for achieving anything. Number one, full stop, is discipline. Let me say that again. The number one character trait for achieving anything is discipline. Now, you may be like, "Oh, Jerry, that's real revolutionary. I'm glad I turned this podcast on to hear you say you need more discipline." Well, I'm glad you did too. Number one. Number two, why do you keep falling for the shit then? Why do you keep falling for the rest of it? Clearly, you have not bought into the understanding that that's what it takes. The problem is, somebody who wants to sell you something will convince you that, yeah, you could do it this way, and you can do that, and you'll get results eventually. But man, it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of time. And instead of worrying about willpower and discipline and all that stuff, instead of worrying about that, and instead of, actually putting your time and effort into building skills and abilities, just do this instead. Just take the shot. Just use this algorithm. Just use this equation, and that'll get you there much quicker. But you didn't build the discipline to keep it. That's what you're missing. So if you want to balk at me saying discipline is the number one skill, the number one character trait that you need to build if you want to fucking get results and keep results, you will never get and keep results otherwise. And that is a hard stop. Never. But it's not just discipline, the idea of discipline. There are three things to focus on when it comes to discipline. Three areas to focus on, if you will. Number one is the discipline to choose one thing at a time. Number two, the discipline to stick with one thing at a time. Number three, the discipline to finish one thing at a time. And I want to break those down so that you can better understand what we're talking about here. So first, the discipline to choose one thing at a time. Choosing first that's step one. Well, of course it's step one, Jerry. Well, I know that. But most people who choose something, who choose a path, do not choose. To choose is to cut off. Technically, let me try that again. To decide is to cut off. Decide comes from the root, desir, which literally means to cut off. To cut off all other options is what you're doing when you're deciding. When you're choosing on a path, you're cutting off other options. The problem is most people keep their options open. They say, well, I'm going to go ahead and try this thing. And in the meantime, I'll tinker with these other things over here. In business, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and try this, I don't know, widget making company. But in the meantime, I'm going to try this TikTok shop, and I'm going to try this, I don't know, whatever, this coaching program over here to see if I can build up a coaching business. I'm going to try all three of these things. And you never put your full focus into one of them. You never choose one of them. So your heart is never bought into one of them. So mistake number one is not buying into your choice, not buying into your decision, not cutting off all other options, and not being satisfied with the idea that what you've chosen is and can potentially be the success that you want, the successful thing that you're after. Diets are another perfect example because people choose, they try a diet. I'll try it for some time. Well, cool. That means you're going to try it for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you're going to stop. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's what happens with everybody. Instead of deciding on it and then doing it, So making a choice, making a decision, and cutting off all other options is number one, so that you buy into it. It's ironic that women say that men have a what's this word I'm looking for? That men have a dedication issue, not dedication, commitment. Men have a commitment issue or have commitment issues. Uh, when it comes to health, women are the ultimate commitment issue people. Like that's the way that it is. Now, if they commit, I will say when it comes to exercise, especially, women are the ultimately committed once they're committed. But before they're committed, then, it's up in the air. I would say they're more uncommitted when it comes to nutrition, because they just won't let shit go, to be totally honest. But you have to commit yourself to what you're going to do. You have to commit yourself to what you are choosing. Otherwise, you're not going to put all your effort into it. If you don't put your effort into it, then you're not going to get out of it. The old saying, you get out of it what you put into it, is true. And in this case, if you don't commit, you don't decide, and you don't cut off, then the likelihood that you put full effort into it and then keep going with that thing long enough to make it work is, again, close to zero. So that's number one. Choose, decide, cut off, commit to one thing at a time. Number two is the discipline to stick with one thing at a time. The discipline to stick with one thing at a time. Because once we get far enough down the road, we start to get bored. And when we start to get bored, things get dangerous. That's what most people think when it comes to doing anything. They think that it's not working, or they think that it's just not the right choice for them. When really they're just getting bored of it. 6 weeks in, you will get bored of your diet. 6 weeks in, you will get bored of the new business that you started. 6 weeks in, you will get bored of the new investment strategy you put in place. You will get bored of it. But 6 weeks is not a long enough fucking time to make something work. It's just not a long enough time. It's not even close. As a matter of fact, you're looking at more likely at least 6 months, if not longer. Now, it's not to say that you're not going to have to make some tinkers and some moves here and there from time to time. Certainly, that is going to be the case. But whenever you do something, it's going to take a minimum of 3 months for you to see if it's going to even move the needle. A minimum of 3 months. So you have to decide to stick with one thing at a time and not let yourself get distracted by the woman in the red dress, by the thing constantly going by the people telling you to try this, by the new idea that you just saw on TV, by whatever newfangled thing that flashes in front of your face that is a potential new way for you to succeed and do something different. You cannot get distracted by that, because if you start that thing, number one, first of all, the likelihood that that thing works is high, but so is the thing you're freaking doing. It's probably the same likelihood. If you've done enough research and you've been disciplined enough to look into what you're going to start and what you're going to do, and you've made a choice and you've committed, then the likelihood of that thing working has just as much likelihood as all the other things that you were going to decide or that you were going to choose. The only difference is how disciplined you are in choosing, in committing, and then how disciplined you are in sticking with that thing. And then how disciplined you are in finishing one thing at a time. Because what does happen for those few who get further down the road and they get 70 to 80% to their goal is they go, ooh, well, I'm pretty darn close. I don't know. Maybe I can fall off the wagon for a bit. Maybe I can let off the gas for a bit, or maybe there was this other thing. Now that I'm close to this, I think I'll be able to, finish this up if I just give it about 20% of my attention. Now I can start putting my attention over to this thing instead, this other thing that I wanted to try. So you start to self-sabotage yourself again as you move closer to that goal and you get closer to it and you're like, oh man, I'm almost there. You start to convince yourself that now I can start looking around and now I can start to try different things. But you will not finish the fucking thing. Excuse me. You won't finish the original goal if you start to look around. If you start to let off the gas, if you start to get distracted by other ideas, you will not finish that original idea if you start to look around, because 20% of your attention is not going to be helpful. And eventually it will be 0%. Eventually it will be zero. This is especially relevant for entrepreneurs, especially because what an entrepreneur does is they launch a product, they market a product, and the product becomes successful. It starts to sell, it starts to do a thing. And then they're like, oh, let's go ahead and launch another product. Instead of running that first product dry, just wringing it dry until it actually starts to plateau. Doesn't mean that you don't maybe you can change your original product a little bit, change the color, change the shape, maybe a little, change the offering. But if you have a product, just because one won, just because one, let me re-say that so it's not confusing. Just because one succeeded doesn't mean the next one that you start is going to also succeed. And then once you take your attention away from that first product, it's going to start to plateau and drop. And then you're going to wonder what happened. So that's really big for entrepreneurs and business owners, especially in the beginning, is starting to get distracted because one thing was offhandedly successful, and now you're going to put your attention to another thing instead of riding the wave on that first one. So it is the discipline to choose, to decide, and to cut off, the discipline to stick with one thing, and then the discipline to finish before you decide to start a different thing, before you decide to start something new. Because if you focus on that one thing and that one thing only, and you have cut off all other options, and that's the only thing you've been focused on, then that thing will be fantastic. And you'll get there and you'll complete it. Whether that's losing weight, you'll get there much quicker than if you try and bounce around from diet to diet. You'll get there much sooner if you stick with your exercise regimen and you make the tinkers that you need to make along the way. If it's a business or a new product, you will sell that product better if you just focus on the damn thing and you just keep going than if you try to go from one product to the next, where you try this marketing avenue and then that one and then bounce back to the first one and then go to a third one. Just choose one damn thing and stick with it. Just do that. So if you start with a different question whenever you're starting something, then there's a better chance that you'll be able to actually follow through with these steps that we're talking about. Most people start with the question, what do I need to do to achieve this goal? So I have the goal to lose 50 pounds. What do I need to do to start to achieve that? Well, I need to change my diet and I need to exercise. Good. Let me start exercising and changing my diet. Well, you get 6 weeks into it and you realize how damn hard it's going to be. And then you stop. So instead of asking the question, what do I need to do X? Start with the question, what is the full price I need to pay? Question 1, what's the full price that I need to pay if I want to accomplish this goal? If I want to lose 50 pounds, what's the full price I need to pay to lose 50 pounds? Start with that. And then literally get yourself a pen and paper out and write down the full price that you need to pay. Write down about the amount of time that it's going to take, round up by 20% at least, because you're probably going to be pretty gracious with yourself, which is great. I'm glad that you're gracious, but it's going to take you longer than you think. Number 2, how much effort? We're talking about dieting or we're talking about losing weight, it's going to be more effort than you think. No, you're not going to be able to have cheat days. You might be able to have a cheat meal, maybe a week, maybe. No, you're not going to be able to skip exercise because you had a long day at work. No, that's not going to be able to happen. You don't have that privilege. You don't. So you have to be real with yourself when it comes to that. And what is that full price? Write the things out and then ask the next question, which is, am I willing to pay this price? Am I willing to pay the full price of achieving this goal? Once you have it on paper, then you can look at it and you can see, and you can be honest with yourself. Am I willing to pay the price? If the answer is no, then maybe just lower your goal a little bit. Maybe lower it to, I want to lose 10 pounds. Cool. Okay. If I want to lose 10 pounds, then it's still going to require plenty of effort, but not as much effort as if I want to lose 50. If I want to make $100,000 a year in business, it's going to require less effort than if I want to make $500,000 or $1 million. So if you're not willing to pay the price on option A, set a different goal. You have recognized and built awareness around your personal ambitious limitations, which is freeing, if anything. And that way, you don't continue to sabotage your damn self. You don't continue to start and then stop and then start and then stop, which is worse than anything else. You can have great ambitions, but if you keep starting and stopping, all you're going to do is convince yourself that you're not capable and you're not worthy and you'll never be able to achieve anything in your life, which ain't true. So cool. If you've set a big goal and you realize that you're not willing to pay the price for it, then you have saved yourself the misery of starting and stopping. Lower it down a little bit and go, okay, let me reset. What's the full price I need to pay for this goal? Cool. I'm willing to pay that one. Awesome. And what you might realize is once you actually get going and once you actually start making progress, you'll go, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I thought. Or, oh, I kind of enjoy this. Maybe I am willing to pay the full price of my first goal. And then you can reset and you can readjust and then you can keep moving forward. But the goal is to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It is to be a finisher, not a starter. In a society of starters, finishers are unique. If you just want to be another, then continue. If you want to do something different, be an outlier of sorts, finish. Finish what you start. Keep going. Be disciplined. Be the person that you say you're going to be. Finish the thing you say you're going to finish. That way you become the kind of person who can continue achieving that thing and other things as you keep going. And then it becomes slightly easier. It's always hard. It's always challenging. Problems will always pop up. Obstacles will always happen. That's always going to be the case. Life will punch you in the face. You'll have to fall down. You have to get back up. You'll have to do that about 25 times. And then you might figure it out. But until then, you might as well just keep going. Might as well just keep going. You might as well just keep following through with your word so that you believe in yourself, you believe in your worthiness, you believe in what you're capable of doing so that you achieve the things that you want in life because you can and you will if you just go. If you just block everyone the fuck out and you just do it. Okay, that's that. Discipline, my friends, that's what you want. Be a finisher, not a starter. Be different. Don't be like everybody else. Be you, but be the best you. Until next time, here's to your 1% growth every day.